Last video we covered a lot about SOQL. I might have split that video into two to make it more bite-sized. And now let's talk about more of the nuanced SOQL with some specific objects in Salesforce. So today we're going to cover task and events and knowledge articles because those are a little bit different than your normal other objects. So let's talk about task first. Task and events are special because you can't get queries just like how you can do queries using relationship queries that we talked about in the last video. You can't quite do that in task because what ID and who ID are two polymorphic fields. What that means is what ID could be related to account, opportunities, other objects in Salesforce. So it's hard to get what ID, what dot account dot name or something like that. That's just not possible. You're gonna get error. Same thing with who ID, because who can be a lead, can be a contact. You can't query it the same way you can query other objects. So you need to be aware of two things. There is something called type. So you can find out what the type of the linkage is to get more data inputs. And you can also use something called type of. And then I found something really interesting where you can also use things like this in SOQL. So this is a little bit more advanced, but bear with me here. We'll take an example like always. So what here I'm doing is I'm basically saying select type of. Type of is just a clause in SOQL. Type of what? The reason it's what, because when you go to the related to field in task, I'll show you in the object manager, the actual field name is what. So we're saying select type of what when. So now we're giving it conditions. We're saying when the type of what is opportunity, then the column should be ID and last modified date. When the type is account, then the ID should be, the column should be ID and end. So that was all conditions. Then at the end we are saying from task. So select from task stays the same. You just have a little bit of differences here. So let's see what that looks like. So I've got those many tasks. I've got 9 tasks in my org. And let me show you what I mean when I say the task what ID. So if I go to task object, and if you have never looked at the API name of task, because it does not say that in the label it will say related to. That's the object I'm talking about. That's the field. And field name is what ID, but when you click on this, you will see the field name here is what. So that's what we're really using for that type of clause. Okay, so just to look at what I have in my what ID, I'm doing this. I can clearly tell that 2 of my tasks are related to opportunity. In production org, where you have potentially thousands and thousands of tasks, obviously you're not going to be able to look at every single rows and see how many of your tasks are related to opportunity versus account. So that's where this query is really powerful, to then say select ID what ID from task where what dot type equal to opportunity. And you can give other names here, other object names, even custom objects name here that can be linked to task. So now it gives me only 2 records because I'm telling it give me the opportunity tasks only. Another thing you can do is also you can do what. You can't query all the other fields. You can't bring the opportunity stage, amount, all that other stuff, but you can bring the name field, which is also nice. So you can just bring the name field here, even for task or event. So same thing will apply to event as well. But if you want to take it an extra mile and try out something more interesting, let's try out that other query that I just showed you, where I'm gonna say select type of what, and you don't have to put it in a different line. I'm just gonna put it in a different line for readability. When opportunity, then I'm gonna run this query. Okay, so as you can see, where there is opportunity, I'm getting all of these fields. Where there is account, then I can also say, give me account, and the name of the account will be helpful, etc. So it can be really powerful if you're trying to get the what ID values parsed by their fields, because if it's an opportunity, you may want different fields than if it's an account. You may want different fields. If it's some other object, you may want other fields. So that's how you can get around the limitation of not being able to query the parent-child relationship directly with task. Quite honestly, I haven't used this as much, but I am definitely going to try it out for the next time if somebody asks me a question around task or events. Okay, let's move on to knowledge data category. Before we do that, if you have never worked with knowledge articles are similar to other objects, but the complication comes from when you have data categories. So first of all, knowledge API name is knowledge KAV, and they have data categories, which is basically how you categorize different knowledge articles. And in your org, you can go to your data category setup if you had it set up. And in my org, I just have service as a group, and then I've got hardware as a data category and some other categories underneath it, and I have software. So because knowledge and data category are essentially like parent-child relationship, but it's not like your typical parent-child relationship where you can just figure out what knowledge is present for which categories. There's no good way to query this by using your normal relationship queries. So it is slightly bit different than other types of queries, which is why it deserves its own slide. If you're using data categories to categorize your knowledge articles and you want to get a quick query of how many knowledge articles are tied to hardware data category, for example, there is unfortunately no good way to do that. Even in reports, it's tricky. You used to be able to do something on Classic and switch the view, and there used to be list views available, but in Lightning, there is no list view to run for knowledge data categories. So you have some new things now, something called with. So with is especially used with data categories and knowledge, and there are different options that you can use. So you can say you want to query knowledge where status is online, so you can still use your normal where clause. So this is new with data category, so that portion is new. And service, that's the group that I just showed you. I have service group set up below hardware. So what that means is give me all the knowledge articles that are at that group but under hardware. So under hardware means any knowledge categories that has laptop, printer, desktop, all of that will be included in that query. If I said, instead of below, if I said at printer, then I would only get the knowledge that is tagged as printer. So let's take a look at a few examples that will make so much more sense. Okay, so out of that, okay, so you got select title from knowledge where published status is online with data category, and this has to be the API names of this. So you have to say laptop __ C, and if there is space, so let's say if you had laptop printer in the same thing, then you have to put underscore yourself. So now I'm just gonna run this query, and I'm seeing two knowledge articles pop up. Okay, so this is a printer guide and this is a laptop guide. And if I just show you what that looks like in Salesforce, so this is the knowledge, and here is the category printer, right? So this is only tagged, gonna have to draft before I can edit that. This is only tagged as printer, as you can see. But because I'm doing hardware below, it's bringing me that data. So if I just did at printer, let's say, then I should not get the other one. There we go. So if I say at printer, I can only focus on printer. So it depends on how you want to query. You can also say above or below printer. So above or below, if you go back here, it means anything that is tied to printer or to hardware. So if I had a category, if I had a knowledge article that was only tied to hardware, I would be able to see that as well. and gave it a category of hardware like that and save it. Then I would see those two because I'm saying above or below printer. And you can also just do below, and I can say below hardware. So that should give me the hardware one and everything else that's under hardware. All right, hopefully that was helpful, especially if you're looking to query knowledge articles and tasks. There is always more to learn in SOQL, and I think the best way to learn is by just running the queries, as I said in my earlier videos. I also want to make a video on SOQL, which is Salesforce Object Search Language, which is really powerful, especially if you're just looking to search, and it's much faster. There are different scenarios where you can use SOQL instead of SOQL. If you're just looking to do quick data analysis, look at what your data is, what your data health is, and if you don't have any other external data warehouses, this is a really good place to start. Please let me know if you have any questions. And while making this video, I came across some really powerful more clauses that I was not aware of. So that is to say that learning really never ends, and keep learning, keep exploring. Thank you so much for watching.